Well, Dr. Leonard Horowitz, welcome to the program. Shall I describe you as the world's best credentialed, most prolific humanitarian visionary? Can I address you as such?
Wow. You added the humanitarian visionary. That's wonderful. I appreciate that. That's very sweet of you. You typically best credentialed, most censored, and most prolific authority in whistleblowing on the pharmaceutical cartel. But thank you so much. Sure.
Wow. And, when it comes to I want to trust my local pharmaceutical giant global company, but somehow my trust in them, doctor, is beginning to wane. Do I have good reason for that doubt and mistrust now?
It's because you're an intelligent human being, reasonably situated with wisdom that indicates that you are aware of there being a monopolization of the healing industry and healthcare, and you don't trust the poisons that are being sold to us that cause the side effects that end up costing humanity its health and safety. Ultimately, it's genocide. So you're aware of that. That's very good.
And it seems to me, doctor, every time there's a sort of a herbal remedy or something that doesn't come into the mainstream or is not at the local CVS for a disease or a malady of some kind, it seems like the pharmaceutical giants want to run down to Congress and say, well, that's not safe like our drug. And they're trying to ban it or prevent it from being sold. Why is that?
Yeah, it's actually a Sherman Antitrust Act violation. It's a violation of an anti-monopoly legislation. In essence, it's really a part and parcel of the illegal crime gang that we call the pharmaceutical cartel or big pharma. And that's how they do it. It is outrageous. It is obvious, transparent, and yet it goes on, and people, our family and friends, how many of us have lost our loved ones because of the drug intoxications and the vaccination manipulations? It's just horrific.
Mm-hmm. Hey, recently, in the last couple of days, I think it was actually yesterday, the president is trying to get lower drug prices. Is he going to get a massive pushback from these global pharmaceutical companies?
Yes, he will, Daniel, but that's a diversion, you see. Again, it's the same old, same old. You know how like magic is done with a magician's sleight of hand, where the magician says, hey, everybody, look over here, but he doesn't tell you what's going on over here, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing. If the president and whoever else, the officials say, oh, we need to reduce the cost because the drugs are too expensive, and make that the issue rather than the fact that you have an illegal monopolization of healthcare and what's called industrial disparagement. You have a whole industrial virtual espionage and sabotage as well as counterintelligence operation that is disparaging natural healing, and that could literally eliminate the opioid crisis. We have, for example, a product called CBD 528, the whole revolution in medicine that's taking place currently with hemp. All of that has been suppressed, and it has been made outlawed because of the pressure by the pharmaceutical lobbyists. And that is what, unfortunately, we're witnessing, and we're subject to the manipulations, ending our freedom of selection, because we're really indoctrinated into the cult. It's a medical cult that they're protecting. They have a protection racket, and magic is part of it. Propaganda is heavily connected to it. And so for the president, it's really, for him to come out and say, oh, we're going to do our best to reduce the costs of drugs. And what's interesting was the way that his vaccination statements were virtually suppressed. And ultimately he was, disparaged by a lot of trolls on the internet for coming out and questioning the sacred cow of public health. That's vaccinations that are all GMOs being injected directly into people's bloodstreams. And he has every right to bring that up as an issue in the presidential campaign to protect we the people. Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, now we see a whole different president. we see a president that is surrounded by the troublemakers, devil doers, who are basically then conning the public into diverting to the issues that are not substantive. Ultimately, the most substantive issue is, are you a human being first, with a physical body first, or a spiritual being as a human being? Are you a spiritual being? And if you're a spiritual being first, then you've got to deal with energy. Spirituality is energy. Energy is frequency resonance. It's electron resonance. And it's not simply intoxicating your body with magic pills that cure every ill, or chemicals and intoxicants that basically supposedly boost your immunity.
Well, let me ask something on the spiritual energy. What was that? What was it that Kanye West says? He and Donald Trump have dragon energy. Interesting on that. But if there is a spiritual energy and this resonance, do GMOs mute that electrical energy?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not recognized because ultimately what you have to question, what is DNA? What are our genes? And in essence, I have to conclude, and I've written a book called DNA, Pirates of the Sacred Spiral. Unfortunately, the hard copy is out of print, but you can get the download on an ebook on cureshop.com, CURESHOPPE.com. And it is a fantastic book that goes into detail that DNA is actually, in my opinion now, an antenna to the creator. Literally, it's a sound and light receiver and transmitter. And what kind of energy do we have, like Nikola Tesla proved all around us? Not only the capability of providing free energy for the planet, which would shatter the whole manipulations of the energy industrialists, but you have also spiritual energy. The religious world calls it the Holy Spirit power of love that does all the healing. And ultimately, that's what DNA is. It's a receiver and transmitter of the frequencies of energy that are, because of we call it the sacred spiral. The DNA is actually a sacred spiral, and it actually is surrounded by structured water. Mm-hmm. And water is a liquid crystal superconductor of sound and light. And so the DNA actually functions as a superconductor of sound and light. The geneticists who are heavily involved in bioenergy medicine look at it as a photon-phonon receiver and transmitter. Photon is light energy. Phonon is sound, audio, frequency. So sound and light energy frequency comes into the DNA, and then what happens is that the antenna receives it, and it also broadcasts it. It broadcasts it to the adjacent cells. So, you ever wonder how it is that like a school of fish, all of a sudden 1,000 fish in a group suddenly instantaneously all shift direction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I love
because ultimately it would take too slow for a chemical reaction to create that mass movement. What's happening is you have an energetic, resonant broadcast throughout the entire school of fish that causes all of them to shift. That's what happens in the human body. Essentially, your DNA broadcasts literally that message to the surrounding cells and the tissues, and the whole body chemistry is subservient to the energy. Chemistry and physicality follows frequency, energy, spirituality. And so that's why fundamentally you're a spiritual being before you're a physical being. And if you want to heal a human being that's a spiritual being, you don't poison it with chemicals. You don't practice slash burn and poison medicine as the great salvation. What you do is you literally deal with bioenergy, biospirituality, and you deal with the forces of spirituality that involve faithful prayer and powerful, heartfelt, loving intention to literally have a miraculous outcome. And that miracle frequency we now know is 528 hertz frequency of sound.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you something. I'm not wanting to make this a political thing here, but recently in the school shootings, particularly on the Democratic side, they're saying we don't want any prayers. We want action. But it was sort of a ridiculing, and I don't know. Mike Pence was ridiculed on one of the talk shows, The View, or something about his faith, and so basically there's one side of the political spectrum that really has kind of played their hand that they don't believe in that at all. But is it that they don't believe in it, or is it that the fact that it does exist? And I think the empirical evidence shows there is a spiritual world, but the denial of that power empowers the other side. It keeps the other side in power. In other words, they have a good reason to say, hey, if you pray or you talk about spirituality or spiritual things, then you're a kook. Therefore, we have your answers because we're down to earth people with definitive agenda. But the fact of the matter is, isn't it a power ploy to get you away from using the power of your spirituality, and they can't control you when that happens?
Absolutely right. That's right on the money. Hit the nail right on the top of the head, and it's a diversion. It's standard operating procedure for population control, population manipulation, and persuasion into the political agendas that, again, you take the magic act. You look over here, folks. Look over here how the right-wingers are engaged in, religious doctrines and dogmas. And maybe you should come over to we, the Democrat liberals that are, basically going to be protecting you from, the expensive investments and the trickling down economics. Excuse me. It's all a manipulation. The entire operation separates Democrat from Republican. It separates Christians from Muslims, Jews from Gentiles. It goes on and on, black from white, male from female, divide and conquer. And so you're right on, Daniel. I believe that you're right on the money with this thing. And I think we, the people, have, we need to wake up to the fact that it's all a manipulation. Mm-hmm. And we're all brothers and sisters under one creator. Mm-hmm. Essentially, even if you're an atheist, you can't anymore. We have advanced in science itself, the physics, the area of physics and genetics, electro-genetics and mathematics, and understanding the power of music is just basically, it's been slam dunked already. We've proven, we know you can't suppress a whole field of electro-genetics, for example, to say that, you can pop magic pills and it's more important than faithful prayer. You can't do that anymore legitimately, because ultimately, even though you've got the money behind you, you've got the pharmaceutical cartel backing you, and it's all propaganda. And that's what we're dealing with. We are literally indoctrinated into a culture. This, medical cult has literally taken over, where we now have substituted the real God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You've substituted the gods of science, but it's tainted science. It's pseudoscience. Mm-hmm. It's easy to pay a scientist to defraud even the CDC. They're defrauded all the time, and they are defrauding all the time. Mm-hmm. And so that's the way it's being administered, is genocide is being administered with intelligence. And the deep state intelligence community is administering the propaganda necessary to keep us divided instead of coming together. Mm-hmm.
And for those of you just joining us live stream on YouTube or on the Edge's website, we have on our Newsmaker line via Skype, Dr. Leonard Horowitz. If you have a question for Doctor, click on the Fast Blast link on the left side of the website, or join them in the live chat on the website, or our secondary live chat on our YouTube channel. Doctor, we've got questions coming in for you. Let's take this one here from Azure. Do different frequencies affect our health dramatically?
Dramatically. The question is right on the money. And, we've been at the forefront, by the grace of the Creator, I've been at the forefront of heralding what we believe is the key of the house of David. It's Isaiah 22:22 and Revelation 3:6-8. Now, of course, we'll have all the liberals who are the atheists say, now there's Horowitz going off into his religious dogma. But the reality is, we didn't make this up. You can't make this up. Literally, what the key is a frequency of 528. Now, let me just give you some simple understandings of how that's so important and why the question is the most substantive question that you could ask. First of all, bees buzz at 528. We know that. You can go on the internet, you can do a Google search, you can take a 528 tuning fork like we did and match it to the bees.
Hey, doctor, I'm a beekeeper. I've got 13 hives, man. Thanks for the info. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You know, we until recently, we are actually in the neighborhood where the volcanic eruption in Hawaii is consuming the properties. There's a huge fissure in front of our property right now. That's right now breaking news. But basically, where does this start? Why do bees have the intelligence to sing in 528 as they're building these beautiful six-sided hexagonal-shaped honeycombs to store the sweet honey that is actually boosting immunity? So the answer is really simple. Chlorophyll. It gives us all of the energy. Chlorophyll, what is it? It's like hemoglobin. It's the same chemical structure as hemoglobin. It's the blood of plants. And has magnesium, so it's greenish yellow instead of our iron in hemoglobin, which turns our blood red. The plant world has greenish yellow color. Mm-hmm. And why does it have that? Because it's the heart of sunshine. It's the heart of rainbow. You look at the heart of the rainbow, it's greenish yellow. That's 528 nanometers of light. So now we're going back to light. We talk about sound, bees buzzing, the frequency resonance. So you begin to see that there is a relationship between sound and light. And that is the fundamental ancient understanding that light, the sunshine, came out of the word, which is sound, which was expressed by the creator, and suddenly, let there be light, out pops the sun. So at the heart of sunshine, now, as above, so below. If it's true for the macrocosm, it's true for the microscopic realm. That is, if it's true for the heart of sunshine, that is true for the heart of the rainbow, it's true for the creator's heart, and it's true for your heart and my heart. At the heart of our heart is 528 frequency. That is the chlorophyll resonance energy that's outputting the breath of life. Remember, in the Creator in the Old Testament, how did God get Adam off the ground? He breathed the breath of life into him. So here in Hawaii, we talk about aloha, the spirit, the breath of life. Literally is this, spirit of love. So that is the essence. We are sustained by oxygen. We are living, resonating beings whereby our blood hemoglobin is matching the frequency, energy, and sacred geometry of the chlorophyll molecule in the plant world that is receiving this precise energy of optimal love, and that's what we now have to realize that we are. We're love beings by nature. And then now you engage you have a loving human being who's really a spiritual being and in fact a superhuman by nature, because naturally we heal. We don't need to pop these magic pills, but now you engage the pharmaceutical cartel and deep state that literally has an agenda, a financial and political agenda to manipulate and control and reduce populations. Mm-hmm. Because large populations, uprising, revolutions represent a threat to the status quo and those who are controlling the deep state. Mm-hmm. So once you understand that, now you understand the way the entire game is laid out to suppress our own innate intelligence and capacity to be miracle workers, miracle healers, and loving citizens.
Is population reduction one of the nefarious plans of the deep state?
Absolutely. Look at Bill Gates. He's public about it. He goes on, he's been at TED conferences. We have this on revolutiontelevision.net. We were forced, Sherry Kane and I, Sherry's a genius investigative journalist. She and I have been partnered since 2009. We were compelled by censorship to form our own television network, our own radio network. We have 528radio.com that plays 12 different genres of music transposed for free. Literally, it's publicly financed, publicly supported, and publicly administered, where you can remaster your old tracks into 528 and they go onto the playlist, so you can listen for free on 528radio.com to music transposed into 528. We had to literally create revolutiontelevision.net. Both on Vimeo is Revolution Television, that's our channel, because of Google, YouTube censored us. They pulled down 157 of my video productions. And if you do a search on Dr. Leonard Horowitz, you'll still see stuff up on YouTube, but it's not our stuff. It's all the loving people who are very smart like you are, Daniel, where you appreciate this information and how it can be life-saving and you want to share it. So everything that you see currently of Dr. Leonard Horowitz is not Dr. Leonard Horowitz's anymore on Google, YouTube. Sherry has been, in the last 2 or 3 months, censored by Facebook. It's hideous what they're doing to us. And again, that's why I stated at the beginning of the show, I am literally the most prolific, censored, highly credentialed whistleblower in the pharmaceutical industry worldwide. And it's a sick and sad reality that we have to deal with this kind of censorship when we have such wonderful information to share.
Yeah, and it seems to me there's a lot of people out there that don't want that information to be shared. Let's go to another question here. This is from our moderator of our chats, Jade. What do you think about the 5G network that's about to be launched?
All of the networks that are about to be launched, all sourced from the deep state. And it's most frightening to me that among the greatest risks is artificial intelligence, because that artificial intelligence is not simply free to assume its own agenda. It is being literally carrying out an agenda to take over the human race and civilization. And, for example, a colleague of mine, Will Smith, the actor, who loves my work, unfortunately, I was just appalled that Will was paid and actually consented to do a commercial with a robot. He went out on a date with a robot that looks like, a woman. Right. And the fact is, another breaking news right now, you have Jim Carrey, who's banging Donald Trump and the Vice President Spence with his artwork. Right. He is the #1 Hollywood propagandist to promote the questionable reality that we are living in. They're questioning reality. They're causing the public to question what is reality. And according to James Carrey, it is about this metaphysical new age, con artistry. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, it's dangerous to turn on a television, and here's why, and nobody's talking about it. Look at the living colors. This is why HDV, high definition television, is actually a risk to humanity. Why? Because you turn it on and it is more living color than actual life. And what that does is it engages you and basically hypnotizes you. It's hypnotronic warfare that's being administered to get us to feel less than good about our reality. That the realities and our virtual living reality through the television sets ultimately now has us engaged in this whole question. And when we now question who we are and the worthiness of who we are, the beautiful love and capability and worthiness of being a human being is questioned now, because we're obviously can't get it together politically, obviously have horrible problems in our community, horrible suicidal tendencies with drug addictions, and we can't get it together. We now have to turn to Watson. IBM Watson has all the answers. far better performs on Jeopardy than what you and I as a human being can ever accomplish. And we're now going to advance artificial intelligence for civilization salvation. Excuse me, Daniel, this is such outrageous crap and such a violation of our ethics and morals and values of being human. Think about Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. If you're engaged in psychology, the fundamental understanding of basic human needs is we need our physiology needs. We need food. We need water. Then we need a roof over our heads, safety. We need to have then love and belonging. We have to believe that we have loving friends and family or extended family. And then from that feeling of being loved, we can then advance our own self-worth through self-esteem. Well, think about what television does. It separates people. Look at what the cell phones are doing. People are engaged in this now wireless, high-speed connection where reality becomes inside a telephone. There's your reality. So the ethics and the morals and the values and the fundamental human needs to civilization, in my opinion, we've reached the end times. We've reached the point where the Creator says no more, like in Babylon, when we build these temples to the sky and God now substitutes, or man substitutes for God, the gods of science, and say we, with our intelligence, are superior to anything that civilizations has ever seen, and you who are real human beings have no more say because you're too dumb. That's the place that we've currently reached, and that's the greatest risk I can see to civilization in its history.
All right, and let's get to the. But let me ask a quick question though. You were talking about the frequency 528. Now, if that is we call that, you would call that the love frequency, the frequency of love?
Yes, I call it the love frequency. Why do I do that? Because it's at the heart of everything.
Okay.
So I mentioned it's at the heart of rainbows. It's the heart of sunshine. It's the heart, obviously, as above, so below. Creator's heart. It's got to be the heart of your heart. And we know from actually some awesome revelations that we came out with. Dr. Joseph Paleo, first of all, in 1998, prompted me. Actually prayed to Jesus for the revelation, and then prayed to Jesus to bring me to him after he heard me on Coast to Coast with Art Bell, actually, and before George Norrie came on.
Yeah.
And Joey said, I want Horowitz. Bring me Horowitz. And through divine synchronicities, I ended up knocking on Joey's front door for dinner. And Joey laid this whole project, the Solfeggio scale, on me. The divine revelations that Joey received from Jesus, according to Joey, was that in the book of Numbers, chapter 7, verses 12 through 83, you have a repeating series of verses, repeating virtually nonsensical. Again, it's kind of like a diversion off of the most material information, which is in the numbers themselves. And the verse numbers that were put into the Bible when the Levitical priests first translated the original Torah into the Greek Septuagint and installed the verse numbers to the Bible. Those numbers are 396, 417, 528, 639, 741, and 852. Those are the 6 solfeggio frequencies that the most spiritually uplifting hymn of all the ages, it's called the Hymn to St. John the Baptist, was sung to those 6 progressively higher notes. And that third note is the Miragistorum in Latin. It's called the Miragistorum in Latin, which means miracles in English. It's the miracle note. It's the miracle frequency. And in that sequence of verses that repeat, that are virtually nonsensical, it is the gold. It is the gold standard in the music. And so I'll give you another example of how Hollywood and the deep state's media propaganda steals my stuff all the time. That's how I basically got connected to Will Smith and his people. Essentially, at Warner Brothers, they wanted to have my book, Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola, on the set for one of their films. And so the issue of this frequency being the resonance of energy of 528 came in with initially Dr. Paleo's revelation from Jesus. And subsequently, we published the book, the book Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. And then ultimately what happened from that is the deceivers started to come in. And Hollywood, with its deception, started to tear it apart. We first had people that were causing it to be discredited or attempting to discredit it, and we beat them all back. But recently you had Jay-Z. Jay-Z, who's the top hip-hop rap artist in the black community and American media, came out with his latest album called 444. And that literally, Daniel, took my work, took Dr. Paleo's revelations, and took the whole concept of specific frequencies being beneficial to humanity. Because his story was this, if you followed the story, Jay-Z, who's Beyonce's husband, who's a jerk. He was a jerk, and he admits to being a jerk. He would beat Beyonce. He was physically abusive besides emotionally abusive. And so his story, they came out with this stupid story and sold it through Capitol Records and NBC Universal. They said that Jay-Z woke up at 4:44 in the morning. An angel woke him up and said, Jay-Z, you're a lousy guy. You got to get your act together. Otherwise, there's going to be harsh trouble for you. And the angel said, allegedly, I'm going to give you the lyrics and the music for your next album now. So he came out with 444, allegedly at 4:44 in the morning, and said he had a whole shift from being a jerk into being a wonderful human being. Wow. I'm sorry. A444 is what we've been saying. He said not a word about Dr. Leonard Horowitz, not a word about Dr. Joseph Paleo, not a word about the ancient solfeggio frequency understanding and revelations and how it impacts genetics, electro-genetics, and all of society ultimately. He didn't say one word about that. He gave us this story, which is a lot, in my opinion, a lot of bull. And then what they did is they produced the whole album in A444 instead of the standard tuning, which was imposed by the Rockefeller cartel in 1938 out of 10 years of acoustic weaponry. That's using sound to kill people. Acoustic weaponry research in 1938, they institutionalized for the Western world the A440 standard tuning, and now Jay-Z suddenly says, nah, we're going to go up 4 hertz to A444. The album's going to be called 444. They produce it in A444, and it has this miraculous impact on his social interaction skills. Ultimately, what you've got is a diversion off of Dr. Leonard Horowitz's work that has been snowballing internationally when people realize the truth. And it's, again, very simple revelations. When you tune up from A440 to A444, you go into sync with the heart of love. You go into sync. It's like being in the zone. Daniel, you've had the experience yourself, right? When you're engaged in some creative art or artistry, when you're in that flow, or as you are on the microphone, when you're in the zone, you know you're in the zone, right?
Right on.
Yeah, that zone is 528. That's the zone of creative inspiration. That's the heart of love and heartfelt loving intention used, for example, in prayer produces miracles because it's the miracle frequency of 528 that's resonating out into a musical mathematical matrix of divine design where 1 and 1 doesn't lie, it's always 2.
Uh-oh. Froze up there. Hello, doctor. I don't know if you can hear me, but you froze up here. We may have to call you back here. Obviously, the powers that be are trying to block the good doctor. Let's call him back on Skype. Uh-oh, looks like his internet connection was cut. It's off. Very suspicious right there. Let's try it again. Try to get it back online again here. Looks like he's offline here. Well, looks like we had the phone lines cut here for the good Dr. Leonard Horowitz for some reason. Obviously, the powers that be don't like the conversation we're having tonight about frequencies and love and getting off big pharma. I'm not sure what's going on with that. We'll wait to see if he can get his internet established again. Obviously, the powers that be are trying to stop this. Now, as a whistleblower that he is, the most prolific whistleblower in this field with amazing information, there's no doubt that the damn deep state would like to try to interfere with this broadcast and prevent the doctor from getting his message out. We'll certainly I'll keep an eye on this to see when he can log back on. Obviously, the internet was cut. Okay, looks like he's back on. Let's give him a call.
Daniel.
Hello, doctor. Obviously, the deep state is trying to stop your message from getting out.
Yeah, Daniel, can you hear me?
I can.
Wow, I don't know what happened there. No idea.
Well, you froze up, then it showed you went offline.
Gee whiz, interesting. At any rate, I'm not going to advance any conspiracy theories on that one.
Oh, I will, because I love to. Hey,
Okay.
hey, there's no sacred cow. There's no conspiracy that I won't throw out on the internet and see if it sticks. Hey, that's some of my enjoyment here. But I want to ask you, when I started that conversation with you about the frequency of love, does hate have its frequency?
Yes, I believe it does. And in fact, it's the only one that doesn't get along with Love 528. I believe, and I've advanced a theory, based on the evidence that I'm looking at, 741 is the natural frequency of evil, of distress, stress, and damage. And interestingly enough, that frequency, which is one of the notes in the original solfeggio. So I believe it's a natural frequency. So we have to engage in some very interesting questions after realizing this, that the 741 frequency is in gross dissonance to 528 love. It's virtually the only frequency within what's called the perfect circle of sound, 9 core creative frequencies, that doesn't get along with 528. And in musicology, it's literally called, can't make this stuff up, it's literally called the devil's tone. The devil's tone. And it's the harshest frequency. It's used in movies to jar people and distress people and cause anxiety in films. So when, for example, also it's used in emergency vehicles, emergency responders vehicles, where you hear ee-aw, ee-aw, ee-aw. That jarring is love, hate, wow. Love, hate. And that ultimately, I mean, that's based on my understanding and knowledge. It's a theory. We need a lot of research. We actually need to have an institute, a research institute that advances more of these questions and finds some of the answers. But it brings you to a most important question. Are some people born evil? Are some people genetically susceptible or inclined to vibe to 741 more than 528? And that question has been virtually at the heart of psychology and psychiatry and criminal psychiatry for many, many years. What's interesting, we have a very dear colleague of ours is Dr. Vernon Neppy, who is America's leading psychiatrist. MD, PhD, but beyond that expertise, he's a physician, metaphysician, and he is an expert in physics and mathematics. And Dr. Nepi has been pressuring and trying to get the American Psychiatric Association to recognize kind of what we're talking about right now, to recognize there is this thing called evil obedience.
Whoa.
Where we become complicit in the deep state's genocidal operations when we keep our mouths shut because we're afraid we may lose our job or friends. When we tell them our truth, we become evil obedient.
Wow.
And so the concept of, let's say, going back to the Christian kind of concept of Babylon, we're in Babylonian kingdom now, we're being completely manipulated, and we're not speaking up, we're not being activists, we're not revolting against our own genocide, our own demise. That is a very negative resonant energy frequency that we believe that some people possibly are inclined genetically, they're born evil, they are born in dissonance to 528 resonance, and because of that, it raises the question beyond how do we educate our children and how do we administer good education, which the root word of education is educare. It means to draw forth from within the human being its innate skills and talents and giftings and anointings. Bringing that out is what true education, not indoctrination. It's the opposite of indoctrination and dumbing down that we're witnessing. So this whole concept of 741 versus 528, it's the war of good and evil, is the war, in my opinion, of 741 versus 528. And that's why, even though there are hucksters on the internet who have taken my work, the solfeggio frequencies, and they've said, oh, well, we're going to produce whole tones and you're going to listen to this stuff. And they rarely credit me, but they steal my stuff. And then they produce commercial products and services. And then they say, we're going to give you 741. That's not what I recommend. We have enough 741. Yeah. We have 741 everywhere. And all of the music, if you look at A440, the standard tuning in music in the Western world that the Rockefellers imposed in 1938, having Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister for the Third Reich, being the go-to guy to go to the British Institute and cause them to institutionalize, standardize for Western world A440 standard tuning. That's part of the conspiracy that deals with this issue of frequency. But the whole concept then of institutionalizing that frequency and making all of our music A440, in A440 gives you 741. Your F sharp note, which is in the D major chord in A440 standard tuning, stresses and distresses your heart. It causes literally blocks everything from heart, from this energy center called the throat chakra down. It stimulates your ego. It stimulates fear-based consciousness. And that's what this whole, look at the evening news. All the evening news is about, and you can now recognize it, as I do, as an expert in behavioral science, media, health education, health promotion, media persuasion. That's what my Harvard degree is in. And when you realize that's what the evening news is all about, but they're using it to cause people to go into fear. Loss, fear, pain, fear, loss, real or imagined threats to survival is what the evening news is about. And what they're playing to, what audience are they playing to? They're playing to the human ego. Yeah. And that's right here. That's 741, this whole pineal gland, which is a spiritual processing station. The pineal gland right here in the forebrain. That is what all of the species use to guide them home, all of the 1,000 miles of migration that the species are engaged in, it's administered by the pineal gland, the spiritual gyroscope. And when you now surround it, you inundate it with fear messages and loss and pain, suffering messages. Now you go into this survival mechanism that dumbs us down and blocks everything from heart down. So we're no longer loving. We're no longer resonating in 528. We're in Babylon. We're celebrating 741 dissonance. And that's why society has degenerated to the max, because our spirituality has been suppressed.
Well, doctor, as an official Midwest cowboy, you know I got a guitar. When I play that F sharp, man, there's something annoying. It really annoys me. You know, I always want to go to something else. So maybe there's something to that. But let me ask you something. Talk about the 528 frequency. If we're operating in that, but we're being bombarded by the 5G network, by chemtrails, by GMOs, by other sorts of drugs, high definition television, all that, is that frequency enough to minimize the effects or eliminate the effects of those things?
Yes, that's why we put all of our time, money, love, efforts into expanding the 528 Love Revolution internationally. And that's why we listen to all the time 528radio.com. Now, me telling that on your program is likely to crash out the site because, again, we've had very little financial resources. If there's somebody out there that wants to finance a wonderful project for humanity's spiritual evolution and consciousness evolution, they can help us create better servers that will broadcast to larger audiences. But 528radio.com is what we listen to all the time to surround ourselves in this frequency of love, of buzzing bees like you experience on your farm.
Right.
And ultimately, man, that's healing and it's sustaining. And the more we can surround ourselves with that by which we are naturally uplifted, spiritually uplifted, blessed, and healed is what we want.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to a question here this is from our YouTube chat. As you know, we've got several chats going on watching this program. Can you listen to the binaural beats at 528 hertz via headphones?
Yes, a lot of people, and this whole field has largely been influenced by my work, and the answer is yes. You can use, and actually I'm going to be in Las Vegas on at the Tuscany Hotel on June 8th and 9th. On the 9th, I'm giving a presentation, I believe that's a Sunday, on how to apply 528 for enhancing your joy in life, every aspect of life, everything from, what you're investing in, what you're doing in your business, to what you're doing in your personal life. We're looking at ways in which 528 can bless you. And so, yes, it can be used in every field. It can revolutionize every field, and it should revolutionize every field because it's A, so simple, and B, so powerful. Because I'll give you another great example. You're a musician. You know Loggins and Messina, of course. Most people know Kenny Loggins and Jimmy Messina. Sure. We have a dear friend in Hawaii whose engineer is a dear friend of his, so he introduced us, and that's Jimmy Messina's good friend and engineer. So the engineer told him about 528, and Jimmy says, you know what, I'm not going to get into that because it's 2/3 of a half tone higher than standard tuning. Standard tuning, I mentioned, is A440, standard tuning. Mm-hmm. And when you go 4 hertz up, you're 2/3 of a half tone higher. So Jimmy Messina says, I'm not going to get into that because I already have trouble hitting some of the higher notes. I don't need any more difficulty. So the engineer said, just do it, Jimmy. So he tried it. He tuned his guitar from A440 to A444. He calls the engineer back. He says, I can't believe it. I can sing higher notes so much easier. Well, Daniel, the reason why that is what I've told you. The heart of the musical mathematical matrix of creation is in 528. Mm-hmm. So if you're a physicist, you'll understand what phase locking is, or what's called entrainment. You're literally getting in sync with the powerful force of love in the universe. And because you are a loving being, because your heart is resonating in that frequency by nature, at the heart of your heart is 528. And because that's so, when you're in the zone, that's the zone of creative inspiration. And that's why it's the miracle note. You can sing higher. You can have all sorts of wonderful things happen to you because you're in that zone and you're in that love.
I was going to say about Lagos and Messina, I wonder if they were operating, if they included the 528 frequency in your mama don't dance and your daddy don't rock and roll, maybe the mama could dance and daddy would rock and roll. How about that?
Yeah, right, exactly right. I'm guarantee you they didn't know about it at that time. But I'll give you another wonderful example from what's happening right now. Bono from U2.
Okay.
Bono took my work. And it's obvious because there was other recording artists like Amory, who was a Grammy Award nominee, who did an album of DNA repair using 528. So that's my work. So Bono starts to think about producing the album that he got a lot of, crap for, putting it on everybody's iPhones. Remember that album?
Yep.
And in the feature track to that album, what he dedicated it in loving memory to his mother, Iris. The track is called Iris, Hold Me Close. And he did it in 528. He did it in 528 because his story is that he loved his mother so dearly because she saved his life. And so she passed away. He wanted to contribute something, dedicate something in loving memory. And he produced Iris, Hold Me Close in 528 on that album.
Wow.
So this is the kind of effect that we're having internationally, and it's well-deserved. And it goes up against the censorship. And ultimately, I believe that this is snowballing the manipulators, controllers of the deep state that understand the power of music, that understand, from the Freemasonry types of conspiracy genres where you have music and mathematics and the sacred geometry and the sacred knowledge of chemistry of everything else. You have the fundamental understanding that we're spiritual beings first, and if we want to uplift ourselves spiritually and heal ourselves physically, then we got to get into the zone of love. And now you understand why John Lennon, also another example, the classic, most powerful love music track that's ever been produced is Imagine. John Lennon produced Imagine in 528.
Wow. Did not know
Another
that.
example, Led Zeppelin. They didn't have my work, but somehow they knew to do Stairway to Heaven in 528. When I started to realize and have other people internationally contact us and say, did you know this? We had no clue initially. And then when we learned this, then we understood that there were some people that held this sacred knowledge in the music industry and, of course, in Freemasonry. And so that's where we are currently. We're witnessing internationally a snowballing of the 528 love revolution. For people who are new to this, you can go for free on to 528revolution.com. 528revolution.com has dozens of articles that explain the application of 528, the physics, the mathematics, the music of it in various fields. It's just a wonderful resource. And there's the book of 528. I wrote the book of 528, Prosperity, Key of Love. That's a fantastic, life-changing book. When you read that, you'll never look at yourself in relation to the environment, the relationship to nature and the whole creation the same way again. You'll realize that you're a divinely created, designed, and maintained person. And then another resource is the 528 Key movie. That's up on Vimeo for a small fee for view, pay-per-view. 528 Key movie is also on cureshop.com. That's 2 P's, CURESHOPPE.com. And so those are the resources for people who want to learn more about 528.
All right. And speaking of international, we have this question from Peter in Australia. Do you think eventually the tide will turn concerning how most people view vaccines, or is the indoctrination too great?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. And on Saturday at the conference in Las Vegas, it's called the Health, Healing, and Happiness Conference. Mm-hmm. And I've been asked to speak on this issue of vaccines. And the question being, will humanity ever wake up or awaken to the reality that they don't need to intoxicate themselves and boost immunity by injecting foreign RNA, foreign DNA from bacteria, viruses, fungus, yeast, chicken embryo, bovine fetal serum, monkey kidney tissues. Whoa. With smallpox, it's cow pus, supplemented by the inactive ingredients, the stabilizers and sterilizers that include mercury, aluminum, formaldehyde, formalin, MSG, polysorbate 80, and tween, garbage, literally spermicides. This crap is worse than a witch's brew.
Sounds like
and
it.
That will humanity ever come to the reality that Bill Gates would not like you to come to, the conclusion that this is genocide. This is profitable intoxication. And literally, when, there's a whole movement in GMOs, genetically modified organisms. We don't even want to go to food stores anymore and buy GMO stuff. There's a whole sections opening up. More and more nation states are now saying we're going to outlaw this Monsanto Bayer Corporation intoxication. Well, guess what? All of the vaccines, the active ingredients in all of them are all GMOs. They're all genetically mutated bacteria and viruses. So the question is really, will humanity ever awaken to the way in which the pharmaceutical cartel, through their pharma media, has manipulated the mindset to have us engage genocide as the standard of care in healthcare and medicine? We are fools, and it's been engineered to make us fools. Will we ever awaken to that? I pray that we do. Every action that we can take to help people awaken and come out of this deception. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's exactly like Jesus preached. Jesus said, "Come out of her, my people, lest ye be infected by her plagues and her insanity and her hypocrisy." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're at right now. So the question is to you, what will you do to help people come out of that insanity and engage the truth and the reality that we don't need all these poisons for our, our lives?
Okay, let's get to another question here. We've got a bunch of them coming in. It says, are animal vaccines harmful and are they necessary?
Yeah, the animal vaccines, in my opinion, and I'm literally internationally known also largely for, and initially for the book Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola, Nature, Accident, or Intentional. I have many nations and leaders in many countries that have taken my work, invited me to come and talk to them about this issue. The animal vaccines are as deadly, in my opinion, based on a review of the scientific literature, of the genetic engineering, of the viral manipulations that were engaged in vaccinations. That tells me cat leukemia came from the vaccine industry and the laboratory manipulations of feline leukemia virus, recombining it with a whole assortment of other viruses to allegedly research cancer cures through cancer vaccines. Wow. That's called the Special Virus Cancer Program. That program ran from 1962 to 1978 in the United States. And there was international collaboration, including in Russia. But the Special Virus Cancer Program books, if you are really seriously interested in this subject, go to cureshop.com and go to the downloadable ebook section. Click on and purchase the Special Virus Cancer Program secreted government documents. They're about 475 pages each, and it has all the contracts and all the contractors, the names, what they did, and they're all descriptions of what they did in this whole field of genetic engineering of viruses for vaccines that included all of the animals, the cats, leukemia, the chicken, sarcoma, all of those types of very, very risky laboratory procedures. And that's another issue it raises. When you start to grasp this, then you begin to realize how the media, the pharma media, is controlling our understanding of the greatest and gravest risks to the DNA, the genome, the human genome, is through the release of genetically modified viruses. And for example, that's what Bill Gates just the other day came out and said, we're going to have 30 million people die of a new kind of plague that's going to go around, and we're not prepared. That was BS. It was propaganda. The diversion again, he diverts us from the simple fact that if that were to take place, where would it come from? It would come from a lab. It wouldn't come from nature.
All right. Here goes another question. Do you have any insight on the CRISPR-9 DNA technology?
The CRISPR technology, is that CRYSPR? Yeah. I reviewed that when I reviewed for the book DNA, Pirates of the Sacred Spiral. The CRISPR technology was advanced by J. Craig Ventnor. He is a demonic capitalist, totally outrageous commercial con artist and thief. He stole for the CRISPR operations and what's called TIGR, the Institute for Genetic Engineering. He stole from all of us the human genome.
Wow.
Yes, he did. And how he did it, I go into detail in the book DNA. And I apologize. There's no more hardcovers. They're all gone. And we can't afford to go back and produce them because, again, Amazon and all the controls that mom and pop operations have been basically put out of business by the multinationals. Mm-hmm. We can't even afford to pay about $5,000 or $6,000 for a short run of the book. But it is on cureshop.com, and it's also on healthyworldstore.com. healthyworldstore.com. You can download DNA, Pirates of the Sacred Spiral, and you could follow the expose that we did on how J. Craig Ventnor and the whole behind the CRISPR technology and the TIGR, they call it TIGR, the Institute for Genetic Research, how that stole from the universities and the public sector. They privatized the human genome. They had just completed the human genome after about 20 years, 2 decades of multidisciplinary research in all the universities that the public taxpayers paid to finance. They privatized it in the last 2 weeks after it was done. And that's where this whole CRISPR manipulation and technology fits into the theft, the grand theft.
Wow. All right. A YouTube chat. It says, can they talk to your brain by tuning to the frequency of your brain?
Yes. And we're a little sad that Dennis Kucinich was just lost his election to the congressional seat. The deep state was opposed to Dennis Kucinich because he advanced it was called the Space Preservation Act of 2001, I believe it was. And that talks specifically about what the question is. Can the deep state officials who are engaged in genocide, population manipulation, can they control us through frequency vibration, through the air, wireless? Mm-hmm. Yes, right. Indeed. And it's called psychotronic warfare. And that's what Dennis Kucinich, his bill was about. He was attempting to outlaw it internationally. And currently, they know that technology exists. Mm-hmm. They've used that technology. What was it, about 8 months ago, you had that snafu in London about was it the Russians were engaged in the frequency resonant energy that was making people sick in one of the embassies.
Yeah, that was in Cuba, I think it was.
Yeah. See, that's the technology, the application. So the question is absolutely on target. Yes, the answer is yes, they can cause us to change our moods and engage in our mind, the way we think and the thoughts that we even have. Now, having said that, I'm also aware that there are angels and demons on a spiritual level operating to do the same. You know, angels are out there basically giving you direction if you have the ear to listen, the inner ear to listen. Likewise, when people get possessed and they open themselves up through drugs and all sorts of other weird things, they open themselves up to having satanic influence or demons on the other side, where you need it literally you need to have somebody come and get rid of it. Then an exorcism.
Whoa.
Well, I mean that's what's giving people a lot of these problems, and so this technology now advanced militarily, and it was essentially researched and developed for the military arena. Initially, that was the cause of the Rockefeller Foundation in the 1930s with EMI and RCA. How they decided, well, we can influence a whole army to put down their weapons using frequency resonance and psychotronic warfare. And that's where in 1938, they came out of that research and said, oh, gee whiz, we can cause stress and distress in the population. And stress causes the body chemistry to become acidified. And in the acidified state of stress, that's where immunity drops and your susceptibility to diseases, cancers, chronic diseases, all the chronic diseases are associated with that body acidity. And so the drug industry, they want side effects. They want you to be acidified. They want you to be distressed because they make money as you get sick. And then the pills cause more side effects, as you well know, and that brings you back to the pharmacist and back to spend more money, giving them more profit. So that kind of administration of genocide is what we're talking about when you're dealing with psychotronic warfare, frequency resonance, weaponry, and literally the population manipulations.
Well, doctor, if they are putting thoughts in our minds or controlling it, how would we ever know? Because wouldn't we consider those our thoughts?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it comes down to, what is the internal dialogue? Your question essentially is, what is that little voice in the back of our head that says to us, you got to worry about paying your taxes, or you got to worry about paying your rent, and you're not doing this good enough. You better be doing this. That little voice in the back of the head, it's called the internal dialogue in psychology, and it's related to the ego survival mechanism in psychiatry. Well, that's not all of where your intelligence and memory even comes from. It comes from your heart. Now, there's a whole revolution and facilities and industry in Heart Math Institute technology and understanding that your heart is much more powerful than your mind, ego, internal dialogue. And so it is a process of consciousness, of evolving yourself consciously to move out of this fear-based kind of gestalt, this personality, into a place where you now have the will. You have the assertion of your own will to decide which thoughts align and resonate with your heart and your true knowledge of what's in your highest good, versus being engaged in a fear-based, mechanical, neurotic pattern, which most people, unfortunately, now have been dumbed down in society, and society now is engaged in that cult whereby we turn to the media, we turn to television, we turn to, our celebrities and our politicians to give us the answers, when really in our hearts and in our inner wisdom, we actually have far more expertise. And that is kind of like a process where we've got to look at our own capabilities instead of falling into where now have outside influences. And, the people who commit the atrocities, the mass shootings, for example, they're engaged that, Satan told me to do it. They're engaged in this kind of crap that literally causes, potentially a loving, capable, worthy human being to become a mass murderer.
Right. Didn't virtually all of the mass murderers claim they heard voices?
Yeah, exactly right. So again, you got to go back now into who are those mass murderers that heard the voices? Mm-hmm. What was their connections, if any, to the CIA's and MI6's secret program called MK Ultra, the mind control, population control program? That's the umbrella for all the population manipulation that's ongoing, including all of the media and all the messaging. The secret program was called MK Ultra. Mm-hmm. And it was well investigated by the Church Congressional Investigating Committee in the CIA's operations during the 1960s with LSD experiments and all those other electric shock therapies, where they were looking to manipulate populations by frequency vibrations and chemicals, drugs. And so you've got to look at, of those mass murderers, what are the connections, if any, to the MK Ultra programs? What did their parents do? Start there. Mm-hmm. You take a look at, for example, in the music industry. I'm one of the people who believes that the British invasion was a psychotronic warfare operation. I'm one of the people that literally believes, and I look to evidence for that. And what I'm saying now, look at the Doors. Look at Morrison's parents. Who was Morrison's parents? Why did he act the way he did? And you'll find that his parents were military. They were involved in literally this kind of abuse, where now Morrison goes up there, becomes, an international hero for the lyrics. It was absolutely insane. I don't dislike the Doors music. I grew up. That's part of my culture in my generation. Mm-hmm. But when you now look back, you reflect on it, as I do as an elder now. I'm 66.
Uh-oh.
I look back on that and I go, wow, I had no idea that Morrison, all of his kind of like, he was streaming online, on the stage. He was just like free flowing, totally drugged out. He was totally gone on drugs. And why was he gone on drugs? Because his parents were engaged in the MK Ultra program themselves as military officials. Mm-hmm. And he was set up to become the superstar that he and the Doors became.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A comment came in while you were talking there, Doctor. And there seems to be a growing list of doctors that have mysteriously died. Do you have any intention of committing suicide in the near future?
Not only do I have no intention of committing suicide in the near future, I have all the intention to expose that whole agenda that's being conducted by Dr. Joseph Mercola and his significant other, Erin Elizabeth Finn, whose real name, that's the real name of the person who is actually, and this may come as a shock, and I don't worry right now about being sued for defamation, because what I'm about to tell you, albeit shocking, is absolutely certifiably true, and I have actually already defeated some of their lawyers that basically tried to suppress what I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
This story that all of the dead doctors are dying, is a manipulation. It is a psychological operation to cause all of the doctors in natural medicine to leave the field of natural medicine and cause everybody to be afraid to even speak out about natural cures. Erin Elizabeth Finn, who is the quote, she calls herself the nut. What is it? The health nut or something to that effect. Health Nut News. She has a history of being the highest priced prostitute in California, in Silicon Valley, who was engaged in one of the biggest scandals in Hollywood's history, the Anthony Pellicano case. She was the star witness for the FBI, exposing in Hollywood this whole operation of racketeering that was going on. Her best friend, she says, her soulmate, is a fellow who is known as America's #1 hacker. The most advanced hacker in the United States is supposedly her best friend, her soulmate. And that what she's been doing, she has no credibility. She has no background. She has only caused everybody to worry about these doctors dying. And so the answer is no, I don't worry about that. I pray that I'm going to have enough time to finish the project. We've got about a half a dozen more important projects on our plate right now. And I pray that I'll have the time to complete what we've already done. We started. You can go to waronwethepeople.com. Go to waronwethepeople.com under, I believe it's under the media section, and look for Erin Elizabeth Finn. That is her real name. That's her real name. And that when you start to read those articles, you'll have a full understanding of how this is a psychological manipulation of the population and suppression of alternative medicine, causing fear, and ultimately it is, by law, a industrial disparagement. The whole industry of natural medicine is being suppressed, and it is illegal. It's a Sherman Antitrust Act violation against monopolies. This is a monopoly, and she should be arrested for not just consumer fraud. Dr. Mercola was, by the way, sanctioned. She's Dr. Mercola's significant other. Dr. Mercola is engaged. If you start to study his work, he never says one negative thing really about vaccinations. He's promoted. If everyone that's famous, that's not getting beat down by the trolls on the internet, everyone on the Google, YouTube, the activists who are getting censored are real. Those who go on Dr. Oz and get promoted by Oz, who was promoted by Oprah, who's connected to the Hearst Corporation, who's connected to all the mainstream media, including George Noory, coast to coast. Whoa. All of that's part of the manipulation. It's a racketeering enterprise. It is an enterprise. And by law, it's illegal for what they're doing because ultimately people are dying. And people are the misrepresentations and the omissions and the fraud is causing a lot of grief and a lot of distress. And so Dr. Mercola, his whole industry, was brought to task by the FTC, his fraud in one particular matter of beds. He was selling some sort of therapeutic beds, and they realized that he was defrauding the public, and he settled. Now get this. Dr. Mercola settled. Within 24 hours, they disappeared the case, paying a fine of millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And again, you look at Erin Elizabeth Finn, her connections to the deep state and the intelligence community and the hackers, suddenly you begin to get evidence and discovery of the way in which the fingers of the octopus and the deep state are going all over and controlling virtually everything, and primarily the way we think.
All right, let's get to another question. So, doctor, are you familiar with Mattis Yau, a singer who lives in Hawaii?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But let me give you. I would love to meet them probably, but I would like to tell the audience about a Hawaiian singer that they've probably already heard without even realizing it. Brother Israel, who did the wonderful rendition of Over the Rainbow. What a Wonderful World.
Yeah.
And he did that on his ukulele. I want you to know something. He did it in 528 without
Whoa.
knowing anything about 528. He tuned his voice and his ukulele to that frequency of love in his heart. And he produced that. It's got about 200 million hits on Google alone, sold more albums than any other Hawaiian artist in the history of Hawaiian music. That is Brother Is. It was done in 528.
Yeah, and obviously there's a wonderful, wonderful song. Very few songs come along like that they touch so many, that get down to the soul. They go past the mind and into the heart, and that's really the essence of love, I think, right there. Kentucky Girl out of our website chat wants to know, what do you think about Ted Broer and Health Masters?
I don't know anything about him. I'd have to study up to give an intelligent answer.
All right. Then we have this question here. Do you know anything about the Schumann resonance?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, one of the newer products that we're coming out with in the next month, and I'm going to be actually displaying for the first time in front of an audience. We pray we'll have 1,000 people in Las Vegas. Everybody out there listening that's anywhere near Vegas should be there at the Tuscany Hotel on the 8th of June. And I'm going to demonstrate a water that holds the Schumann resonance frequency and has been produced using Tesla technology to hold the frequency of resonant energy. And I'm not just going to talk about it, I'm going to demonstrate it. We're going to show you how, contrary to the dogma that water cannot hold energy. Now, that is what we all learn in high school physics, that you can't keep an energy frequency vibration in water. And that's also the garbage propaganda by the pharmaceutical cartel that says to you homeopathics don't work because you can't hold a resonant energy in water. I'm going to demonstrate and show you on stage probably a dozen people jumping maybe 6 inches off of the stage, getting an electrical shock from 1 liter bottle of energized water that holds the energy. So yes, that resonant Schumann frequency is the heart of nature. That's the resonant energy of Mother Earth. Wow. And it's obviously Earth is grounding. And what relates to what we're talking about, again, I mentioned about the electrons. I mentioned that solar energy, the heart of solar energy. And the sun is all hydrogen. Hydrogen emits the solar radiation, which is all electrons. And the heart of that is the electromagnetic color spectrum in 528, connecting your heart to the Creator's heart, but also this concept of lightning bolt striking Earth. The lightning comes down and goes whack down into the Earth. And what's that? That is the same concept of electrons being delivered down into the grounding of the Earth, because the Schumann resonant energy frequency attracts literally that electrical circuit, so that we now have a restoration of harmony and balance. We de-electrify the difference between high pressure, low pressure systems. And it goes, now we go back into homeostasis or balance in nature by understanding that there are certain frequencies, such as the Schumann resonant energy of the planet, that unfortunately, ungodly, has been altered already by nuclear explosions that have taken place, that have literally altered, and all the fracking that's ongoing. All of this is the subject fundamental to my friends and colleagues who are up on Mount Mauna Kea right now, some of them being arrested, having been arrested, protesting right now on that mountain where they want to develop the 30-meter telescope, and are now engaged below, right in my neighborhood, with this volcanic eruption because of the destruction of the natural way in which lava flows underground in my neighborhood, and the way that the whole resonant energy of that mountain and the sacredness of that mountain, which speaks to the godliness of Mother Earth. That's what the native Hawaiians believe. Is fundamentally, they call it the Aina, the earth sustains us. We are the earth is us. That's the whole philosophy. If we care for Mother Earth will care for us. Think about that in relation to fracking, the pollution, or the nuclear weapons. All of this essentially is, unfortunately, changed the Schumann resonant energy. I'm not sure how much, and that's a question for scientists.
All right, and let's get to this question here. This is from Sugarfoot. It says, some folks believe 528 love frequency is harmful. Now, why would somebody put stuff like that out?
Yeah, well, that's exactly, those are the devil doers in counterintelligence. Those are the people who literally have, soiled the internet with defamation of me. They've come attacked me. They've attacked my family. They have attacked my companies. They destroyed my 3 companies. We were doing extremely well before they began, and they had a major impact on every aspect of my life. They typically, as you hear, they do come after you to get you engaged in court cases. I currently have 6 cases ongoing in the state of Hawaii on all defeating, attempting to defeat the menaces that they have, the deep state, the drug cartel, pharmaceutical cartel has directed against me. So what happened was initially Jamie Butterf, who alleged to be a Pentagon worker, he started with another agent named Tyler Thurman to claim that Dr. Leonard Horowitz and his 528 was fraudulent. They claimed that the real frequency, the real most powerful frequency, is 432, not 528. And they then generated, because the pharmaceutical cartel have literally thousands of trolls operating, and those thousands of trolls operate tens of thousands of more, or maybe millions, of cyber bots, little cyber bots that have the capacity, artificial intelligence, to alter even the discussions, engage the discussions, and put in propaganda into Facebook commentaries. You can't imagine the sophistication of these people and the amount of money that's spent to suppress the intelligence of society. So they were the ones that came out and said that 528 is demonic. They were the ones that came out and said that 432 is better. And 432 is a good frequency. It's a harmonic of 528. It potentially could heal. We need to do more research to find out how. I wrote about this in the book of 528, Prosperity Key of Love. I wrote about that 432 was related to 528, and it's probably a good frequency. But what they did to suppress the 528 revolution is they disparaged it. It's literally illegal. It's called industrial disparagement, and they get away with it because they control the courts. They control the prosecutors. They control the FBI. The CIA's on top of that. You had in the news yesterday, and I'm researching this because of the issues in Hawaii, you had the Fox News explaining that there was a troll that the Fusion GPS put into the Trump campaign.
A spy.
This is the manner in which they infiltrate every single positive movement. They infiltrate, they want to control absolutely everything that potentially threatens them. Mm-hmm. And 528 is a game changer. 528, paradigm shattering is what it's doing in medicine. You can't continue the slash, burn, and poison approach to healthcare when you understand love frequency 528 and the power of it. Mm-hmm. So there's your answer.
Doctor, if somebody doesn't feel like they're operating out of 528, and I don't know if there are various numbers, maybe 520, 499, whatever, is there a way to tune in to that frequency?
Well, yes, the first thing I would recommend doing is read the book of 528 Prosperity Key of Love. And I don't just say that because we'll, support the people that support us. I'm saying that because, again, it's a shifter, it's a changer. And what you'll realize is that the frequencies make a difference, and then you can go to do more research. You'll have a foundational understanding of this whole topic of frequency, vibration, resonant energy, and how it affects your physiology and metabolism. Everything going on in your Holy Spirit-filled temple is frequency energy associated and affected. So once you understand that, then you can start to play. I'll give you an example. How one of the things that I do to play.
Okay.
I go on to 528radio.com. And because it's public supported and because the public uploaded their own MP3s, and then the software transposes it, and we caution people on 528records.com. If you're going to upload your MP3s, make sure that they were actually recorded originally in A440 standard tuning. Because if it wasn't, the algorithm will transpose it not in 528. So now, people have done that for years now. There's thousands of wonderful MP3s. There's 12 different stations. And I'll play along, Daniel, like you may want to play along. When you're tuned to A444, you can play along with C528. It's beautiful. But, maybe once every 30 or 40 songs I'm jamming along with, something will come on where it doesn't work. You can feel it. You can hear it. It's just not in harmony. And now that's, again, what we're talking about. The different frequencies, you will have to know for yourself with your own heart and your own ear what is 528 love, or what even suits you best among, for example, the solfeggio frequencies. There are 6 original solfeggios, and then because I actually played with the numbers on a napkin in a cafe, and I realized there was a pattern. And that's where I came up with the perfect circle of sound. To complete the circle, there are 9. So I came up with 3 more notes. So I'll give you an example. Jonathan Goldman, who is the world's leading sound toning expert for healing in the area of natural healing. Jonathan Goldman, he called me up after we published with Dr. Palaio the Healing Codes book, and he said, Len, you mentioned 6 tones of the solfeggio. He says, aren't there 9? And I thought to him, right away, I said to him, you're smart. Because I had just, like a couple months before, been in that cafe, had realized that there were 9, and I wrote down the 9, and then I actually trademarked the perfect circle of sound. The 9 core creative frequencies and the sacred geometry of the 3 triangles. There's 3 pyramids that are in musicology, literally they're called the central triads of the harmonics of the 3 notes that go best together. So I said to Jonathan, I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. He says, can you tell me what those 9 notes are? Or the other 3? I said, sure can. In fact, I'll show you how to do it. And I showed him, and he then came up with one of the most powerful healing CDs in history. It's called Holy Harmony. You can get it on, you can get it on cureshop.com, or you can get it on healthyworldstore.com. Look up Jonathan Goldman's Holy Harmony CD and how you use it. My recommendation is it's so powerful. You use it at bedtime. If you have anybody that's got terminal cancers, been sent home to die, or you want to have a good, powerful prayer to eliminate a disease, you go to bed with faithful prayer. You pray that disease goes away, and while you're playing the Holy Harmony CD, and what you'll experience is that the room will fill it will become like a cathedral, a Holy Spirit-filled cathedral. And the power of that resonant energy will be in the room. You'll feel it, you'll hear it, and we have had a lot of wonderful benefits and outcomes from people doing just that. There's another wonderful CD on the cureshop.com website. It's called Psalms for Alea. Psalms for Alea was done by Stephen Reitz, who likewise contacted me and said, do you think I should do some harp work? He's a master harp player. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, you should do a 528. We've had a number of harpists who have played to 528 and retuned their harps. And the track that he did, the album that he did in Israel. It's called Psalms for Alea. And when I first started to listen to it, I literally had tears coming down my eyes. The eyes are the windows of your soul. And the salt water, that's, the ocean water, streaming down with emotions of joy. Now, where does that come from? Joy, love, bravery, and faith are the values of your heart. So his beautiful music of harp touched me deeply. And that's why that Psalms for Alea CD is on in the store. But he also recognized what I came out with. I came out with the fact that King David in the Old Testament, if you remember correctly, he soothed and healed people. Saul, for example, his enemy, who wanted to kill him, he soothed him and healed him with his harp. And that's the key of the house of David. Of course, King David was of the Davidian bloodline. He was, basically, the ancestor of Jesus when you start to look at the genealogy. Mm-hmm. So the key of the house of David, which is the current prophecy in Isaiah 22:22 and Revelation 3:6-8, says that in these end times, when you have wars and rumors of wars and earth changes and weather changes and great plagues striking, that's now. At that time, a key of the house of David will be heralded by the sixth angel from the city of Philadelphia, which is brotherly love. That's in the Bible. Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, in the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament. And that will open doors that no man is capable of opening, and closes doors that no man is capable of closing. What kind of doors that man can open or cannot open or close? There's spiritual portals, resonant frequency energy spiritual portals, where you now engage in a higher kingdom, the Holy Spirit-filled kingdom of the Creator, to bring in this resonant energy frequency of love, which is the fulfillment of Jesus's ministry. The whole concept of Christianity, it's all about love and faith.
All right. Well, Dr. Horowitz, we are at the end of our broadcast. Anything you'd like to wrap it up with about any of your websites or anything you'd like to say to the audience out there? You go right ahead.
Well, thank you. First of all, it's been an honor and a privilege to be with you, Daniel. God bless you. Thank you. And all the listeners supporting Daniel, thank you for doing that and getting all of this information out. Whatever you can do to help support my work or my sponsors through healthyworldstore.com or cureshop.com is greatly appreciated. Also, anything that you can do to help support 528records.com. We need more server space. You may hear some outages when people upload or download. What you're actually hearing is the fact that our servers are overburdened, but you'll still have a wonderful time listening and you'll be enjoying that. Other than that, I think 528revolution.com I mentioned as a great resource for education. The book of 528 is awesome. And I also recommend, if you want to look at the dark side and what's really going on, read the articles, especially in the media section and in the counterintelligence, the COINTEL Pro section of waronwethepeople.com. And then drlenhorowitz.com. You've got the image up right now on the screen, Daniel. That's my personal official website, drlenhorowitz.com. And best way to reach us, if you want to reach out to us with any questions or any donations, appreciated greatly. You can contact editor at medicalveritas.org. And Medical Veritas we publish for all of the people in health, science, and healthcare. Medical Veritas is medical truth. So that's medicalveritas.org. And I am editor at medicalveritas.org.
Okay. Well, Dr. Leonard Horowitz, appreciate you coming on the broadcast. Can we have you on again sometime?
I'll be happy to. You might want to bring on Sherry Kane, too. She's got some awesome revelations.
Well, let's get her on, have her contact me, and we'll get a scheduled date for her.
Thank you, brother. God bless you.
All right, you bet. Bye-bye.